Hello, and welcome to another episode of Busy on Break. As I said before in my previous episode, I am your residential redneck, and it's good to have everybody here. We got some interesting topics that we're going to be talking about. We brainwashed a couple, so we might think it's something to listen to. So, like I said, this is Busy on Break. Let's get to the conversation. All right. Well, Shane, how's it going today?
It's going pretty well. How are you doing?
I'm doing pretty good. I'm just now noticing that in OBS Studio, which is the software that we use here, there's this setting that you can set called saturation, and I might have it set a little bit too high because I can really see a lot of red in my face right now.
Am I making you nervous?
Yeah, well, I'm clearly very red. I'm blushing.
Oh, you make me blush too, Joe.
How's it going, Rylan?
It's going well. Glad to be here. Hope everyone had a good weekend. So, mine was, pretty normal. Other than I got a marriage license from the local courthouse, so I'm getting ready to get married. So we had to go to the courthouse, and I will say the marriage license part of the courthouse is probably one of the happier parts of a courthouse because, people are going there for parole or probation or whatever. And I was in a room where like someone was literally getting married at the courthouse. Like they were foregoing the whole church wedding and just signing the document. That's there. Awesome. His wife was pregnant in like a white wedding dress meant for pregnant women. It was a Hispanic couple, and they were just skipping the whole marriage and just signing it right there, and they're officially married now. So it was interesting seeing that. And then I guess there was a divorce lawyer that he was telling one couple not to get married or something. Like it's kind of funny. So that's, other than that, just been hanging out with friends. So
that divorce lawyer was looking for a future paycheck.
Obviously.
He was like, this happy couple walks out their application or their marriage license, and he's like, don't do it. So it's kind of funny.
Don't do it, Dilly weds.
But, still, I would say that's one of the happier parts of the courthouse because the rest is like, I don't know, you've worked security in one where...
Yeah. So I used to work at do security at this one courthouse, and you've got like divorce court, you've got like like probation, parole, you've got all the courtrooms. There's like constantly like inmates being shuffled. I did security like years and years back, and as part of like my tour every hour or so, I would walk like through the floors and stuff like that, but I did have to go under to the basement and do like a tour, and I had to like walk past like this cell block, and it was really really interesting seeing that as getting paid $12-13 an hour back then.
Oh gosh.
You can imagine marriage court's probably definitely the happiest place in that courthouse.
And I believe I was at the same courthouse on Friday, so it's funny how however many floors up is a happy setting, and how many floors down is like literally hell, where people are waiting for their hearing to be sentenced to jail. Yeah, really wild stuff that like some of the happiest moments and some of the saddest moments could be all in the same building.
Literally all in the same building.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh.
Pretty wild.
That's crazy.
Yeah.
That's crazy.
Well, what's been going on with everybody's lives so far? I mean, so honestly, I think it'd be a good idea. I mean, since we're starting out a podcast, I think we should give a little bit of a background as to what we do. And I think it might be a good time to try and share some of that stuff. So, Rylan, what's been going on with you in your life? What's been going on over the past 3 or 4 months?
Oh man, it's been good. I mean, we all have similar friend groups, so some of these stories I share with everyone here, but we had a friend that just got married and we went to his wedding, but prior to that we went to a bachelor trip in Nashville with him, which was a lot of fun. I personally, me and my fiance had our backdoor neighbors had an apartment. So the apartment behind us had a fire, so we had to leave our apartment and move. Like right after we got back from Nashville, I was actually worried on the trip going to Nashville that something might happen. I told her, I was like, I think I should stay home, but I'm going to go because I really have to go. But I'm really worried about our neighbors being a liability. And literally the week I got back, I woke up at like 5 a.m. to a fire alarm. My dog's freaking out. And we had to leave because there was a blazing fire in the apartment behind us. So it's been pretty wild since Nashville, honestly, with, our friend's wedding and then the move and just all the other stuff that life brings. What about for you guys? What's going on?
It seems like it's been like a extremely busy year. We've had our buddy Joe's wedding. We had the Nashville trip. Getting ready for your bachelor party, your wedding, and then recently I went to Las Vegas with a buddy of mine, and I competed in the World Series of Poker with heavy dreams of trying to get the $1 million prize, but unfortunately I fell short, and I busted. Anyone who knows poker, I busted out with a king high flush against an ace high flush, and that was very devastating. But outside of that, I started a new relationship with a girl that I've been seeing for a while, and that's been going pretty well, and spent the weekend at the beach, and things are going pretty well overall. Can't complain.
One thing I wanted to say about that whole air conditioning incident, it was amazing the amount of carbon buildup that was on the side of that wall in that apartment complex, because you could tell where that fire happened. And I could not believe the amount of just black stuff that was built up on this wall. Clearly very much a liability. I'm glad you guys finally got out of there. And I recently had the privilege of being over at your place, and it's a considerable upgrade.
Thank you.
From the last place that you went to. Yeah,
we're really happy where we live now, and I the sad truth, not everyone can say that, but I'm pretty happy where I'm at. I lived in a different area for a while, and now I'm moving back a little closer to home. So it feels good being closer to my network. Like, I'm still close to you guys, but I'm closer to my parents, and it's been a good adjustment, but not everyone can say that. Not everyone has a good apartment situation or whatever house situation. So we're really happy. So
I liked your old place was good, but like this place, even just helping you move in, like it's AC. I mean, it's got central air.
Oh yeah.
It's like it feels like there's more space in the apartment. There's like a nice lobby way. So that's a 10x upgrade right there.
And then Joe actually reminded me yesterday. I forgot that the week before you guys helped me move, we helped you move. So there's been two big moves. Like, we're both leaving our old places, moving in the last 3 months.
Yeah.
I went to 2 weddings in the last 3 months. Been to 2 weddings.
Oh, that's right.
Like a cousin, my fiance's cousin's wedding, and then our mutual friend's wedding.
That was a fun wedding. That was a good wedding.
It's just hard. I think it's so difficult to try to organize all these things in your mind, because you just move on to the next challenge and you forget all the accomplishments along the way,
Yeah, time has definitely gotten away from me over the past couple of months. And for me, it's hard to believe that the moves happened. And, our buddy's getting ready to go back to his hometown, going back to, he just recently graduated, but, he's going back to the place where he applied for the job. But, even with some of the stuff that I had going on, it's like, I had a couple of production projects that I was getting started with, and it's just amazing where that has gone so far. Anyways.
And then you also did that open mic thing in that town nearby, which was pretty cool. So that happened.
Actually, funny story about that. And to the person watching, I really hope you're not watching this, but honestly, I got to give credit to anybody who is willing to get up on stage and try to play the guitar. But for those of you that have at least some conceptual understanding of music, there's this idea of playing chords on a guitar. Well, this guy ended up getting up on stage and he played one G chord for about 3 minutes.
Felt like 20
It
minutes.
really did.
Felt like an eternity.
Yeah, Shane, you should have been there for that. I mean, that was one of the funniest and most infuriating open mics I've ever been to.
He just stuck with the G chord the whole
He
way.
stuck with the G chord, and then he went over to an E minor chord. I'm like, whoa, you just livened things
killed
up
it.
here.
But he not only would he just strum the same chord, but he would like strum it like with different tempo, and then he would also sing like loudly, and like it sounded almost like a fire siren. It was like it was so bad. And
It really was. And so the sound mixer that we currently use for this podcast, it has a built-in compressor on it, which I mean you could probably hear based on the pops going into the microphone. But this guy was clipping my soundboard. That is really difficult to do with the compressor. I mean, literally, the guy was like,
it literally sounded like that. I was trying to listen to the lyrics, and he was literally just
I
like,
couldn't understand the
he
lyrics.
was like describing people in the room and what their shirts were. Like it was the most random lyrics. He's like, that guy over there is wearing a red shirt, and you're just like, where is this going? It was weird. Yeah.
What's the end game here?
Yeah.
What was really odd about that whole open mic thing was they had probably one of the best opening acts I've ever seen. They had a flutist and a harpist.
Oh yeah,
and these
I missed
guys
that.
were so freaking together. And I thought to myself, okay, I'm gonna take a look, because she had this musical what do you call it? Musical binder that she had on this music stand. I looked in the binder. It's all handwritten music. You know, usually these days you would be using software like Sibelius or some other musical notation software to just like put something really nice on a page so you can learn how to read it. Sure. Not just learn how to read it, but also read it well. This girl put everything on there in pencil, and it was like perfectly legible, and it was, in my opinion, the epitome of musical excellence. It was absolutely fantastic.
I will say whoever did the baked goods at that open mic did a good job. I was eating brownies and cookies. They were very good.
Oh, it's always good when they have like really good refreshments.
Oh man, they really made me fat over there.
Yeah, anytime you get free cookies or free brownies, you never say no. You always want to take advantage of it.
Yeah, absolutely.
I think that's the only reason why my fiance didn't punch me for like taking her there. There was some good brownies, and she's like, "All right, I mean, at least something's worth coming here for."
Yeah.
And then you were great. Like you were great. Your
Thank
one
you.
friend was great. The other guy was okay, but then there was like some woman doing poetry that was very obscure poetry.
Yeah.
I didn't understand why she even did it, but she did.
Yeah, poetry is an interesting art. I mean, it's definitely an art form. I can absolutely understand. I can appreciate poetry
I
for
appreciate it.
what it is.
I don't understand it very well.
When it comes to like overly emphasizing, because you remember what she did with that? Like she overly emphasized certain phrases.
Okay,
And
I forgot
just
that.
made it like super like like she had a lot of voice inflection when it came to reading this poetry. And I get it's probably a part of the art. I couldn't get any connection towar's it.
That's interesting.
Unfortunately.
There's this thing in like the city close to us. It's called Voices in Power, and I think it might be like a nationwide thing. But I dated this girl briefly that was like did poetry, and she would go up there and like they took videos of her like saying her poetry on stage and stuff like that. But yeah, poetry is interesting because it's kind of like, I don't know, it's kind of like stuff that they write down.
It's such a niche thing.
Yeah, it's so niche. It's super niche. So
Yeah.
it's like if I were to go to like something like that, I'd want to hear you. I'd want to hear like the good musicians over the poets.
I think in high school I was in like a higher level English, so they taught us how to do poetry, and I started trying to write poetry. It was so bad. It was so fucking bad. I think I wrote a girl that I admired like a poem, and she did not like it at all.
Oh,
She was like, this is creepy as all. You know, like this is some fucked up shit.
Roses are red, violets are blue. I love you.
Yeah, like something like that. And
Something corny like that.
Something
yeah.
corny, and I think this gets into another topic we'll get into later. But I think there's these ideal concepts that we think, oh, I write a girl a poem and she'll appreciate my inner beauty and then love me, and it doesn't work. Like, these poems do not get into the heart of whoever
actually attract her.
Yeah, like you're not wooing someone with your poems. Like, I'm sorry, it's
like you would woo someone with a guitar or like your voice.
your music's more acceptable.
Music's a little more acceptable.
Yeah,
I have a poem that might be able to woo somebody.
that you wrote.
I can't take credit for it.
Oh.
No, I saw it on Facebook Reels one time. It's roses are red, the sun gives off heat. If your legs get tired, use my face as a seat.
yes. Some girls would really appreciate that. They would like that sense of humor right there.
Interestingly, like, I really do think it depends though. If you say you have, I'm sorry, if you have an overly obese fat dude walking up to a girl saying something like that, I mean, the girl's probably gonna laugh you off into whatever. But if you have someone who obviously has a chiseled jawline, and I hate to use the word alpha male, but maybe has those alpha characteristics, fight me. Maybe she might think of it as a cute.
She'd find it endearing, probably.
Yeah.
Well, I was just gonna say, it's funny that you use the word alpha male, because if an alpha male does a poem for her girl, now it's acceptable, right? When it's Brad Pitt wrote me a poem about his face as a seed. This is the sexiest poem ever.
Like Danny DeVito writes the same poem. It's creepy, and she's calling the police.
It's just the double standards are
double standard.
Yeah.
It's
depending
real,
on
bro.
who the
They're
guy
so
is
real.
saying it is 100% real.
It's not what you say, it's who said it.
It's who said it. It's not even how you say it. It's who says it.
Who the heck said it? Was it DiCaprio or was it DeVito?
DeVito.
Yeah.
DeVito,
Big
good
difference.
luck.
Yeah.
DiCaprio, he doesn't even have to say the poem. He's already in.
Yeah,
He's already
DiCaprio's in. Yeah, so.
What do you guys think about the fact that DiCaprio is currently dating it's either 18 or 19-year-old?
That's his thing. Like, he's constantly dating younger women
All the time.
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, I don't know what that's about. Like, I don't know what that is.
I saw I don't know if it's an interview. I don't know where I got this information from, but apparently if someone gets to the age of 25, then he's like, she's too old for me and stuff. So I don't know. I don't know if I necessarily think that's a wonderful thing.
I think it's because he's Leonardo DiCaprio. Because you think about it, he's like one of the most like famous actors. He's super rich, super wealthy.
Yeah.
He's also like good looking for his age. So like, if anyone can pull that off, like taking someone off their roster at 25 and introducing a new 19-year-old, he can pull that off. Yeah.
I mean, honestly, good for him, but I mean, at least he gets good ass. That's the only thing I have to say about
go
that.
Leo. He's got it going on for sure.
I'm just curious what a therapist might view that as. Is he emotionally immature? Is he afraid of commitment? Like, I'd just be curious, like, if you psychoanalyze that behavior, what a psychological professional might say that is,
I think a lot of it could be, you nailed it on the head. I feel like it could be commitment, because maybe he has a fear of his wealth, like a girl taking half of his money. Maybe he has that in the back of his head, but maybe, and this is just me speculating, he feels that like he's built a career on acting, and he's risen up to the ranks to become Leonardo DiCaprio. So he feels like he doesn't want to waste his life being bound to one woman when he knows he can get like a new Victoria's Secrets model every 4 or 5 years.
I mean,
so it's like an ego thing.
It could be ego and commitment. I think it's half and half, I'd say.
When did this guy get into showbiz? I mean, from what I understand, it was a really, really young age.
Even before Titanic, before Titanic.
I think he was in like a Romeo and Juliet movie before Titanic. Like, I think he got started at 18. He's 50. Believe it or not, he's like in his 50s.
Yeah.
He's like 50.
He's like, no, dude, he's 49.
49.
Okay,
Yeah,
so he's
oh, wow.
almost 50. Sorry, Leo. I didn't know you weren't 50 quite yet. But,
Don't assume his age, bro.
but like, okay,
Don't
he's
assume his age.
he's 49. He looks younger than I look. Like, that's amazing. So
Dude, he's got some pretty freaking good genes.
Yeah.
I got to give him that.
He does.
I have a
100%.
theory about that. And, you know, if you have your childhood robbed from a very young age, and that it pretty much cements you in that age bracket. So maybe he's just trying to, you know, continue to live in the age that maybe, I don't know, where he was emotionally stunted. I don't know.
that's interesting.
I mean, I know a couple of Nickelodeon stars were actually, no, not just Nickelodeon, but also Disney stars, unfortunately fell into the same, you know, same
Talking about
issue.
like Cole and Dylan Sprouse and like
Them-
Macaulay Culkin. From
Oh,
Home Alone.
Macaulay Culkin is.
He really got it.
Oh my god.
He dove into drugs and things like that.
Yeah, and of course, you know, the Lindsay Lohans, the Britney Spears, the.
Britney Spears. Yeah.
And actually, what's her name? Jeanette McCurdy.
I
I was in love with her. Like back in the day when I used to watch iCarly religiously, and my gosh, like I had the biggest crush on her.
On Jeanette McCurdy.
Yeah, but unfortunately, her times at Nickelodeon, especially with the whole Dan Schneider thing.
Oh yeah, was she one of like Dan Schneider's like victims, kind of?
You see, that's the thing, I don't know, but I don't know. There was a lot of really shady stuff happening over there.
Yeah, I know he was like known as like the creepy. He's definitely known as like the really creepy like guy that was on set that would hit on them and stuff and make them. I think he like made them like do all sorts of weird stuff, like crush a potato and like do all sorts of weird feet stuff. I don't know. I mean,
I was literally about to bring that up.
That's all I know about Dan Schneider is like those. I think I watched like one video, but
Yeah. Well, honestly, I think that pretty much covers, you know, some of the stuff that we've been doing over the past 3 to 4 months, with a little bit of bonus footage there, because you know, us being millennials, we've had quite a bit of things that we grew up with, and we still find them very interesting. I wanted to ask you guys a question. What do you guys think about? So maybe you have a good bit of hobbies in your life, a good bit of interests. Do you think that the more interests that you have, the less likely you are going to be lonely for the rest of your life?
yeah, I 100%. I think the more hobbies that you have, especially like social type hobbies, I think the less lonely you're going to be. But I feel like, you know, depending on your hobby, like I really like poker as an example. You know, you can go to the casino and you can play a poker game or a poker tournament, and you talk with people, you interact, and it might lead you to making some friends or content creation. Like when you build a channel, you start to build a following, and you know, you can make friends that way.
Yeah.
I think it depends on the hobby, but I think if you're in a hobby that has some sort of a community, or like, you know, like you're really into stand up, and like you would go to stand up, and you know, there was like 10 or 15 people there, so you get to know people and build friendships from there.
Yeah, I would say it first of all depends on who you are, and then it also depends on like what type of hobby you're into.
100% agree.
For example, like stand up, I've just started doing only recently, but I've always loved comedy, so I've always connected with like funny people, and that's just kind of been my comfort zone. So for some reason, that does bring a lot of people together, which is awesome that it's still alive, and there's still, you know, amateurs out there that keep the art alive. But when I did it, whatever it was, like a month ago, as soon as I don't know, it was tough for me to relate to people after I did my little set or whatever, because I was so nervous afterwards.
Yeah.
I was just like laugh at everyone's jokes just to be polite, but it was like hard for me to like get back into like a normal state of mind. So it depends on like how new you are into your hobby too. If you're like an experienced, let's say, model planes person, then you kind of come off as like a wise person. But if you're newer into the hobby, you're just trying to like soak up new like details and like trying to learn. So I didn't really like, after like everyone was done, they like waited and got to like conversating and meeting everyone, I just left. I was like, this is weird. I'm out.
Yeah, that's
Like,
right. We did bounce right after.
I just bounced immediately because I didn't feel I still didn't like calm down after my set. I was like, I'm just gonna have awkward things to talk about, so I got out of there.
Got out of there, right?
Yeah.
I think it also depends on your ability as well. So let's just say you're not a good basketball player, but you go to a basketball intramural league and you're the worst player on the team. It might be harder for you to make friends than if you were like a really good basketball player.
Absolutely.
People are like, oh yeah, that was a great shot, man. Like, you made that 3-point shot. You killed it with the foul shots. Like, I think it depends on your ability. So I think if you're going to take up a hobby, try to take up a hobby you're at least pretty decent at.
Yeah.
Because that'll really help you in like making friends. Although rock climbing is a great hobby to make friends because you can start off as a beginner and like the more advanced or intermediate people will actually help you out, and like it's not really a team sport, so you can mess up, and you in between your going up the wall you can like chat with people and still
rock climbing
shit.
Rock climbing has such a like accepting vibe.
Yes.
I don't know when that became a thing, but ever since I was a kid, rock climbing's always been like something fun that almost anyone can get involved in, which is nice as long as you have some upper body strength. What was I gonna say with intramural basketball? I remember me and my one friend, we like created a team at our university.
Heroes.
Well, yeah, but and our team was so bad that every time we play a game against these like elite players who just like didn't make the college team for some reason, they would enforce the mercy rule because we'd be down by like 30 points, and they're like, all right, it's done. Like mercy,
That's
like they're done.
Rest in pieces.
We never finished a game in that intramural
What was the
league.
team name?
I'm not gonna say it, but
Rest in peace.
yeah, it's like dead white people, but no, like some of these dudes could like literally slam dunk, and I'm 5'5". I'm like, holy shit, that guy can jump really high. Like, and I'm guarding like the shortest dude, 6 foot tall, and I'm like, because there was the A league and the B league, and the B league was like just people trying to have fun, but of course that all got filled out, so we had to join the A league, which is like the top players who just like didn't make the real team.
The tallest guy in the team.
We had some other dudes that were tall, but they would always argue with you. Like we had 2 other tall dudes, and like they couldn't agree on who was defending who. So they're like yelling at each other, and this guy just like makes a layup like no one was guarding him. Just goes for an easy layup because it was like Bad News Bears, but for basketball. Like it was so dysfunctional.
Dude, I can relate to that because I remember the one time I played with you guys. Derek and I, the guy that we were gonna cover, one of us was gonna cover was like 6'7", and Derek and I were looking at each other like, do you want to cover this guy? And the other guy was like 6'1", and back then I was like, I didn't really play much, so I'm like, I'll cover him. And Derek covered this guy that was like 6'7". It was like, oh, it was a disaster.
But I think what we're saying with hobbies, just to kind of bring it back, is they can accelerate your friendships, but they also can like lead to nowhere if you're not good at those hobbies. Like if you were a guitar player but you couldn't strum chords correctly and they're all terrible, do you think like, music people would be attracted to you like as a friend?
Yeah, absolutely not.
Yeah.
I mean, I have several examples of this, and I really don't mean to crap on anybody's musical ability. I mean, really, if you pick up a guitar and you at least trying to make an effort to play a chord, and there's plenty of songs out there that you can try and play that are easy enough, and you're like, oh, this actually sounds like a pretty decent song. Recently, especially at this open mic night, and Rylan, I know that you left a little bit earlier, but we had a little bit of a jam session. I went on the drums, and the other guy, he was still playing guitar. He bought his own electric guitar and amplifier, and we had a bass player that was supposed to be there. He unfortunately bailed, so we found someone on the keyboards to do bass. And the guy that hammered on that G chord and E minor chord, he stayed there all the way to the end, and he's like, "Hey, can I jam with you guys?" And I'm like, "Oh." don't like
He persevered through the whole session.
I admire this guy for asking, but I hate to say it, but I could tell by his demeanor he was never going to pick up anything that, me, the other guy, and another guy, we were trying to tell him, like, this is what you need to do. This is the chord progression. And it wasn't happening.
Yeah.
Unfortunately. But once again, I got to give the guy credit for trying, though.
Yeah, I think the last thing about, like, picking a hobby is I think a lot of it is fear-based as well. Like,
yeah.
When you want to join a hobby or meet new people, like, fear can definitely hold you back. So I found that when you do hobbies that are more individual based, like rock climbing, weightlifting, maybe even something like jiu-jitsu, where people are, wanting to teach you, if you're a white belt, the blue belts, the brown belts, they're wanting to teach you more. Whereas if you jump into something that you're not good at and it's like a team-based thing, that's when I could see you feeling like you're not able to fit in.
Yeah. Something interesting I just thought about. What do you guys think about, different hobbies fitting into different age groups? I mean, I know that seems to be, I guess, obvious, but if you have a hobby such as, being into model trains, I mean, obviously that's a hobby that can be enjoyed by all ages, but I feel like I think the better question would be like the demographic of people that you're going to run into based on the hobbies and interests that they have. For example, model trains. You're going to have a bunch of people, ages, 5 all the way to 90. And, for the most part, it's going to be a family-friendly environment. But with music, it seems to be, especially comedy, it seems to be a little bit more on the edgy side. Maybe it's a little bit more of an older crowd. But the crowd is also maybe like age 20 to age 50 or something like that. Have you guys noticed that?
So you're asking like what the age demographic is for stand-up comedy?
Not necessarily the age demographic, but the different demographic of people that are into these hobbies. Like, and I hate to say it, but the people who tend to be into model trains
tend to be a lot older.
They tend to be a lot older. They also tend to be a little bit weird.
Yeah, I can imagine that. Yeah.
I will say for comedy, there's a lot of people with mental health things that they're working through, like on the stage. Like a lot of these people have these like certain themes or like topics that you're like, I mean, I probably talk to a therapist first before I go out on stage and just say this stuff, but they don't care because like I guess that's what makes them funny is like they are kind of dysfunctional and they are trying to work through it by like making a joke about it rather than like solve their actual issues. So you definitely see in comedy a lot of mental health, like whether it's like alcoholism or, depression or, I mean, there's an array of things that can make, this is kind of mean, but if you're fat, that makes you funny for some reason. Like this one, I went to an open mic and I think it was his first time on stage. He was so funny. He was big, like he was a big dude. But he just owned it. He like just made fun of the fact that he was fat. And then rather than like talk about like going on a diet and working out, he just makes fun of the fact that he's fat. And it was just really funny. Like there's this like weird effect where in comedy, the more incompetent you are, but you own it, the funnier you are. Like you're just a funnier person for doing that.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's 100% true. Yeah. And then for like, I feel like hobbies that are more active, like intramural basketball, football, like those are going to typically be people in their like, early to late 20s. But like poker is interesting because you'll have people like that are newly 21, like, 21 to 25, and they think they're so good, like the brash young guy.
Yeah.
Then there's guys that are in like their 60s, 70s, and 80s who have like been playing poker for 40 years, and like they're very quiet, they're more reserved, but like they're under the surface, they're like killers at poker.
Do you think poker is a skill kind of hobby, or is it more luck? Like, you know what I'm saying? Can you be like this elite poker player and just do terrible because it was an unlucky night, or do like excellent poker players always show up, at least better than average?
Yeah, it's a great question, Rylan, because like poker, there's like it's a huge combination of like skill and luck. So if you're a really good poker player over the long run, over a span of 5 to 10 years, you're going to do better than an unskilled player. But that unskilled player, if the right cards come to him on the flop or later on, that unskilled player can beat the better player in the short term. So I do think to win a tournament or to consistently do well in like tournament poker, you need to have a high level of skill, but you also need to have the luck. If you have ace king and the flop comes down 9-7-5 and one guy just hit a straight or another guy hit a flush, doesn't matter how good you are, you're probably not going to win that hand.
I think that's why I haven't been attracted to poker very much, because like I've been playing 5-hand poker or 5-card poker like when I was a kid with my grandfather, and I enjoyed playing poker, but like as we gotten older, we played Texas Hold'em as a group, like with our friends. I realized like sometimes the person with the least, like there is beginner's luck.
There's 100% beginner's luck.
There's no such thing as beginner's luck in music. You don't just pick up a guitar and you got lucky that night and played Stairway to Heaven perfectly. Like that doesn't work.
Pretty amazing.
But you know what I'm saying? Like I feel like for the hobby of poker, it's kind of tough to be really good at something that is so based on luck.
It is very much based on luck. I mean, with poker, you can use a certain bet sizing. You can.
I was about to say there has to be some statistical analysis that goes into it. I mean, yeah, absolutely, it's luck. A lot of it is luck driven, but the fact that you have certain cards that are out, some of that has to be statistically driven.
Yeah, there's a lot of probabilities. So like pre-flop, let's just say you have pocket sevens and the flop comes down, you're going to hit a set, I believe, 1 out of 11 times. So you're going to see a 7 on the flop 1 out of 7 times. And there's a certain percentage of the time where you'll flop a straight or you'll flop a flush. And there's a certain percentage where, you have 9-8 of hearts by the river. There's a certain percentage time where you're going to hit that straight or hit that flush. So there is a lot of probabilities that go into poker, and there's a lot of strategy that goes into it as well. You're an 8-person table and 4 people limp before you, and you have 10-9 of hearts. Well, you could limp, and then it be a 6-way pot to the flop, but the strategy would be to raise and get some of those people out, and then you're up against maybe 1 or 2 players, and the flop comes down. Let's just say it comes down 10-5-4, so you have top pair.
That's interesting.
And then you can bet a certain amount on the flop to get rid of those other 2 people.
That's it. I've never thought of, because I've never played with like a table of 8 people, but kind of trying to eliminate more probabilities by the very beginning of like the game or that round, because then there's more cards out there. It's hard to keep track of what could be out there. I never thought of that.
Exactly. Or let's say you have 10-9 of diamonds and the flop comes down like jack of diamonds, 7 of diamonds, 3 of hearts. So you have a flush draw. You're 1 diamond away from hitting it. So you could fast play that and say, okay, I'm going to bet like 1/3 pot, hope he calls, and I hope I hit my diamond on the turn, and then I can bet for value, assuming that he probably doesn't also have 2 diamonds because you have 2 diamonds in your hand, so you block that. So there's a lot of strategy that goes into it. But you're right. Sometimes you could have aces and someone has kings. You guys go all in pre-flop, and then the flop comes out king 7-3, and your aces are fucked.
Yeah, because they have a like 3 of a kind.
They have three of a kind.
Is that
kings.
called a set?
It's called a set. Yeah,
okay.
It's referred to as a set, but
okay.
3 of a kind. But yeah, so that's the luck in poker. Sometimes you just get really unlucky and they suck out on you. So
I really need to learn this game eventually.
It's a lot of fun. We'll have to play. So we'll have to play sometime.
Yeah, dude, it's absolutely going to happen. Well, I think that covers that topic really well. I wanted to. We're definitely on a roll now. This might trigger a couple people. So next thing we're going to talk about here are turnoffs for men and women. The catch is we're going to try and talk about turnoffs for women from a man's perspective. So if you guys are welcome to roast us in the comments if you want to. I mean, we're going to do the best we can based on our personal experiences.
I mean, if we get some comments, that would be nice.
Yeah, that would be very nice.
Please comment.
Please like and comment.
Be careful what you wish for. Be careful what you wish for.
Right, yeah.
Be careful what you wish for. There's some crazy people out there.
Where do you live? I come to get where you live. Oh my god.
Yeah, there'd be people speculating in your comments. Oh, I think he's from New Jersey.
Well,
So be careful. There's
maybe I am.
1 out of 1,000 is pretty crazy. So
Well, just out of I guess security, I could see the Golden Gate Bridge right outside my window. So
I can see the Statue of Liberty. from here, though.
really, well, that's
Mount
impressive.
Rushmore right now looks beautiful from where I'm looking.
The Las Vegas Strip is right in sight.
Can't wait to go to the poker table at the Bellagio and
Oh,
Did we just
yeah.
turn into omniscient beings or something?
but
Okay.
yeah, to get this train back on the track, we're talking
derailed.
about turnoffs for women,
Turn off
for other or the turnoffs for women when they look at men, and then we can talk about the turnoffs that we have for when we see women.
Yeah.
Okay.
That works.
Let's make it interesting. Let's start off with turnoffs for women from a dude's perspective.
Okay,
Let's make it interesting.
I think Shane, you should take this with your expertise.
Yeah. So are we talking physical or are we talking like?
Anything.
Yeah, I think for me, I'd say from a physical perspective, I would say it would be a turnoff. The biggest turnoff for me personally is if a woman just doesn't take care of themselves, and I think that can be, she could be like morbidly obese, like a woman that just like doesn't take care of her health and her weight, and that can be tough because I'm into fitness. I want a woman that also cares about that. And then there's also women who just like they dress like they're fucking homeless. Like they could be an attractive girl, but they're wearing just like big baggy sweatpants, big baggy hoodie. Sometimes they'll have like the crazy purple hair. It's just, I mean, everyone. I don't know. Everyone does their own thing, but those are two of my biggest ones, I would say, physically. And then as far as a turnoff goes, is a girl who's like very aggressive, like a girl who talks like this and talks like that, and why aren't you coming home on time? Like if a girl sounds very like masculine and aggressive, that can be a big turnoff for me.
So you're saying a female Mr. T?
Yeah,
would
female
not be-
Mr. T would not be good. Or there's a podcast I listen to every once in a while for entertainment. It's called Fresh and Fit, and
Oh, I love those
the
guys.
main host, his name is Myron, and he kind of just like he's got kind of like an aggressive personality, and he kind of puts the girls in their place. But like a female version of him, like talking that way to guys, that'd be a big turnoff. But also a girl who just thinks that she's like hot shit and she's very conceited. I don't like that. Or a girl that like talks down to the waiter, the waitress. Like I've seen that before, and it's just a huge turnoff for me.
Yeah, I mean, so for a man's perspective, like a turnoff for me about the opposite sex. So for women, kind of like what you were saying, the last part, when they're a narcissist. Like I talked to someone, she was like, "Oh, it's Christmas time. I can't wait to get myself gifts." And I'm like, aren't you supposed to get your family gifts and your friends and maybe your
Boyfriend?
significant other if you have one? And she was just so happy that she was going to buy herself gifts for the holidays. And I'm like, that is so narcissistic
Yeah.
to be thinking about yourself during the holidays, where it's like kind of the idea is to give and then you'll receive gifts as well. Not, oh, I'm just going to get myself everything I want this
That
year.
reminds me also, like, I would say a girl that does OnlyFans, she's like, she'll post a status like, or whatever it is, like, oh, I can't wait for all my subscribers to buy me gifts this Christmas.
Yeah, that to me is such a red flag when someone says, oh, my favorite part about the holidays is buying myself gifts. I'd be like, okay, you're a narcissist and you don't give a shit about anyone else, basically.
Yeah.
Okay, Tiffany.
Okay, Tiffany. Okay, Karen.
I don't know. What do you think, Joe? What's a turnoff that women have?
At my one job, this was a couple years ago, but I just thought it was so unprofessional. I mean, I don't like it when, and honestly, I think it's a little bit trashy if a woman kind of like walks around. And don't get me wrong, I love myself a good set of boobs and everything.
Amen, brother.
Dude, I love myself a good set of that. But I'm sorry, like it's kind of like what you said. If she's in like baggy sweatpants and you can kind of like see her nipples and stuff through her shirt. I don't know if just a girl that doesn't really give a crap about how she looks.
Yeah. Also, I've noticed a trend like the past couple of years with like the big baggy like jeans. Like a girl's legs could be like sticks, and the jean pants are like 3 times.
I didn't know this is a new.
It's a new
trend.
kind of trend. I think it started on the West Coast, but you see it a lot. You see it a lot more now.
Yeah. So another thing, and I was just reminded of this over the past 2 minutes. So yesterday I was getting myself, I think it was a coffee over at one of our local coffee shops, and this chick walks in, and she had herself on a nice looking sweater, I guess, but she also had a skirt on, but you could see like the bottom part of her ankles, and her legs were not shaved. Now, I mean, in my opinion, I think that might say something about someone's hygiene, but I mean, she could be the cleanest person. She could be the cleanest girl in the world. But
would you have sex with a hot chick that doesn't have good hygiene? I mean, maybe theoretically, if you weren't waiting till marriage.
Answer is no.
Okay.
I'm sorry. Whenever I think about that, I just immediately think of the smell of fish.
What if it was Megan? What if it was Megan Fox that didn't shave her armpits?
Well, okay, so armpits is a little bit different. Although I feel like if a girl doesn't shave her armpits,
like they're super hairy, like they're really coming out of there. Like, but it's Megan Fox though.
In my eyes,
would you do
it? In my eyes. You see, that's more or less like an indication of like a way that you live your life, or like a mindset. So yeah, that'd be a hard no for me, dog.
There you go. Randy Jackson. There you go.
If she doesn't brush her teeth like consistently each day,
no, dude,
100%. Or if she doesn't she doesn't put on any deodorant. Like that's the worst.
She's got that stank lingering around.
Fishy smell. Coffee breath. Like the first thing she does in the morning is drink coffee, but she doesn't brush her teeth. It's foul.
I can tell you my breath smells awful in the morning, so the first thing I do after taking a dump is brush my teeth. Like it's
gotta take the dump first.
The dump, then the teeth. Because
in that order?
Yes.
Oh, okay.
I mean, I wash my hands in between, but yeah.
Okay.
Because always like, just like, go brush your teeth when I wake up. It's just like, oh. But if she refused to, like, if I was one of those people that refused to brush my teeth, I think I might not be getting married right now. Like,
one thing I noticed, so we have a local chain here. Well, I mean, it's not really local anymore. It spans across several states. It's eventually going to be spreading over to Kentucky and Ohio. But we have this convenience store over here called Wawa. And in my opinion, I think they have the best chicken sandwich out there. Fight me on that. I'm sorry. I think they're better than Chick-fil-A. Yeah. But kind of going along the lines of that, I personally love caramelized onions on my chicken sandwich. Ooh. And it's deadly. Like
for your breath, yeah,
dude. Deadly later on. You got the
breath of death after that.
That onion breath.
Deadly later on the toilet.
Well, what I'll do is I'll get myself the spicy chicken sandwich, caramelized onions, what is it? Pepper jack cheese. Oh, I love myself some spice.
Fuck, I'm getting hungry again.
Dude,
I actually had it just before going on to the podcast.
Dude, Chick-fil-A, get the spicy chicken sandwich with pepper jack cheese, no pickles. Oh, it's so good.
Yeah. Honestly, I never really got a thing for pickles.
I've never liked pickles. Nah. I think they're hit or miss. You might like pickles, but
I've kind of like stopped eating pickles. I can't do them anymore.
Yeah, I never wanted to be like the guy who's like drinking the pickle juice either. Like
I've done it. I don't know. I think I've gone through therapy. I'm getting better, but I did like pickles at one point where I drink the pickle juice. Yeah, I've gotten better. My health is better, but no, I don't know what it is about pickles. I can't eat them anymore. I'll have them here and there, but not as much.
Not even on a burger, man. Like I'll take the pickles off the burger and like.
Yeah.
go without it.
I remember that one SpongeBob episode where he's like delicately assembling that Krabby Patty. He puts a little smiley faces on the pickle and he puts the cheese over it as a blanket. I don't care if you give me relatable vibes when it comes to putting together a Krabby Patty. I do not like pickles. Get that away from me.
Didn't you as a kid want a Krabby Patty?
Oh my gosh,
How
yes.
fucking bad did you want to try a Krabby Patty as a kid?
Dude,
Oh my
100%. I wanted to meet I wanted to meet Mr. Krabs, man.
I wanted that nice crustaceous crabby. I mean, it looked so good. Like the bread looked like it was like nice and crusty, but had a really nice fresh inside. The burger was cooked nice and medium rare. My mouth is starting to water.
I'm starting to get hungry thinking about Krabby
I
Patties.
just wish I could go to the Krusty Krab one time.
I know.
I think
dude.
they have
Walk
one.
up to Squidward and have him give me some rude shit.
Why haven't they like started a franchise off of this?
I don't know.
It's a good idea, actually. Why don't we start one?
Well, I'm sure there's a copyright issue where like whoever owns
probably.
like I guess it's Paramount owns Nickelodeon. I can't say it, but Nickelodeon owns SpongeBob, so you would have to get their permission. They probably make X amount of dollars off of your sale. So
Sounds good in theory to start it, but in
Bad in practice.
actuality, much harder.
So I want to do a rapid fire here. So what do you think that women think are turnoffs for guys?
Yeah, so I think this is a tough one. This is a good one, actually. So I would say
We might get some of this wrong, by the way. Please leave a comment letting us know how wrong we are.
from my own experience, at some point I used to be pretty overweight, and I had like a hair issue where I had like a pretty big receding hairline. So for me, I always struggled with like, losing the weight to get down to a weight where I felt like I was comfortable and I was in pretty good shape. So I think from my experience when I was very overweight, I think less women were attracted to me then than they are now, obviously getting in better shape. And then when I was balding, it really hit my like self-confidence a lot because I was in like my younger 20s and I was starting to bald and kind of ran in my family. So that led me to like restoring my hair and getting hair transplants. So for me, like once I was able to restore my hairline and get more volume, I noticed more women were attracted to that. But I think there's a lot of turnoffs, physical turnoffs that women have.
Oh yeah.
There's a whole list of them. Those are the two that I personally dealt with.
Yeah. I never really conceived as my height as being a turnoff, but it actually is for some women. And I've like asked women at bars and stuff, and it really depends on the woman. Not every woman wants a 6'5" like guy. They're okay without that. But then like 1 out of 3 will be like, I must have a man that's at least 6 feet tall. So I wouldn't call it necessarily the worst unattractive feature of a guy is their height, but for some it is. For some women it's a deal breaker. Yeah. For some they don't care at all. It probably has to do with the way that you were raised, if they have like tall fathers or not. I don't know.
Tall brothers and tall parents. Yeah.
That's probably part of it. But interesting enough, my fiance, her dad's like 6 feet tall, her brother's 6 feet tall, and we match.
Really?
Yeah. So I mean, there's a lot of variation. It gets into like, do you meet the looks threshold, which we talked about in the last episode? Then like, does your personality, like you said, like kind of break the surface and then they fall in love with you and all that? But on like a very shallow surfacey level, height is something that people almost immediately see next to like other features like skin tone and stuff. So I will say being shorter can be a disadvantage for guys, but it doesn't ultimately mean you're a virgin forever or you can never get married or something. Like you can work through it. So
yeah, 100%. I think if you're somebody who's shorter, like if you work on other aspects, like you got into really good shape, you have a good haircut, beard, you dress well, and you also have a great personality, so you're able to like make up for it, so to say.
Yeah, there's definitely like looks maxing and like looking for ways to find your niche. Like you can be still attractive with these. I think I saw somewhere in comments that like if you have like 3 of these things, you're fucked. Like if I was short, bald, fat, I would never meet my fiance, right?
That's like
but if I have
I
one
was
of
thinking Danny DeVito.
literally Danny DeVito.
But he has a wife too.
But Danny DeVito's a Hollywood actor and he's
A-list
funny as
actor.
hell and
Yeah.
he made it work. But
He's
like,
exceptional to the role.
like no offense to Danny, but his wife is just average. Like,
Yeah.
let's be real. There's still
Yeah,
limits.
she's mid.
Yeah.
But
Most mid.
but he's doing better than anyone else with his features.
Yeah, if you're short, fat, and bald, you better be like a multi-millionaire, or you better be like super famous.
You gotta have that good social riz, bro.
Yeah.
That's very you need to have. That's an absolute must. Some of it comes down to like it's like you've got like obviously the biological factors like height, your body frame, your skin tone, your hair, your race. Like those are things that are a lot harder to change. But some of it's like a lot of guys maybe like they're just unkempt, so that their beard grew out too long, or they let their hair grow out like really long as well. Like I have another buddy of mine is he kind of has a hairstyle where it looks like he hasn't had a haircut in like 3 years, and when he actually gets a haircut, it makes him look 10 times better. So a lot of the time, like guys do get rejected on the superficial factors that we just covered, but a lot of times like a guy can be a pretty decent looking person, but they get rejected because their facial hair is out of control, their hair is out of control, their style sucks. Like
I would say fashion is also an aspect. You don't have to be the
Yes.
most fashionable as a straight guy, but you still have to wear stuff that looks good on you. Like you still have to wear a shirt that fits. You don't want to be wearing, like you were mentioning, baggy jeans earlier.
yeah.
Maybe the trends are changing, but at least right now you have to wear shirts that fit you well.
100%, because
yeah.
you want obviously when your shirts like don't fit you, you just look like sloppy and unkempt. When you wear shirts that fit you well, like it complements your physique, just makes you look like you're in better shape. And then it's also like wearing clothes that like match your skin tone. So if you have like more of a pale skin tone like Rowland and I,
Yeah, I'm a ghost.
we typically wear like darker clothes, like your blacks, your browns, your reds, maroons, navy blue. But if Rylan and I were to be wearing like orange right now,
I can't wear orange. That's the one color I can't. Like
or
yellow and
yellow,
orange. I
we
can't do
We
those.
wouldn't be able to rock it.
No,
So
I can't do those colors because I have like reddish hair and just
I
it's too
see.
much. It's too much.
it's too much
The
similarity
orange,
there.
yeah, the orange just doesn't look good.
One time I had this like massive Reese's peanut butter cup hoodie, and honestly, it made me look like a gigantic pumpkin.
I'd love to see a picture of that.
Yeah, I kind of want to see this picture now.
Dude, I was also wearing this thing over at Hershey Park. This was years ago, but you could spot me, in a crowd so easily because it was like that orange. It was freaking hilarious.
You know what's funny? When you're younger, you get used to wearing, like, you get comfortable in these hoodies. So I used to have like a blue hoodie I would always wear.
Yeah.
I don't know why I found it like to be a good look, but I just always wore it,
I used to have, that's funny you mentioned that. I used to have this like Mickey Mouse hoodie that was like a 2XL and that had like these like really baggy like gangster type hoodies, and I saw that one. It was my first like hoodie that I picked up. It was like this Mickey Mouse hoodie that like went down to my knees, and I went to school the next day. My buddy, he's like half Cuban, half Puerto Rican. He just starts busting out laughing. He's like, "Yo, fucking Mickey Mouse is here! What the fuck are you wearing?"
In clown.
He was just clowning me. And I was like, so if that happens to you, you can't pull that off. He probably could pull it off. He had to look for it, but I couldn't. So that also comes into play.
So I one time went on this date. This was years ago, but in fact, I think I mentioned it in the last podcast. But I tried. I asked her out over. It was like a countryside restaurant, very nice place to go, and it was a relatively long drive for her too. So the fact that she drove that 40 minutes said something that she was kind of interested in the date. She gets there. she has this amazing blue dress on with a red scarf. So she put some effort into it. And oddly enough, you were talking about that Mickey Mouse hoodie. I was wearing a Mickey Mouse hoodie that same day. It was like so baggy on me.
Yeah.
It was like blue. It was ugly. And I had like the baggiest pants on. And dude, she called me out during the date. She's
What
like,
did she say?
I put in some effort into my outfit here, and here you show up on this date in like a baggy ass hoodie and pants as well. And I'm like, okay, stuff like that's gonna happen. And honestly, I'm thankful I had the experience, because now I know not to do that and maybe take my looks a little bit more seriously.
Yeah.
I kind of want to turn a little bit to like what women don't like about men's personalities a little bit.
Yes, yeah.
And I feel like this is kind of like a controversial personality trait that goes
Andrew Tate.
Yeah, I was gonna go like, what do you think women think about like guys with big egos and like the Andrew Tate? Well, not necessarily like that extreme, but like guys like the dudes that were good at sports, so they think they're hot shit. Sometimes it seems to work for those dudes. Like they seem to do fine in high school and college and wherever they go in life. But then, like, I feel like for some women, it just doesn't work for them, and they cannot stand that personality trait. What do you think about that?
Yeah, it's a good question. I've found that like guys who have like super massive egos, they're kind of polarizing to women. So like for a certain type of woman, typically they might be able to attract like a woman that's maybe like a little bit younger, early to mid 20s. That kind of like brash kind of personality tends to do better with those types of women, and I think that type of personality can kind of maybe do worse with like women in their late 20s 30s. It kind of polarizes them, because some women they like that kind of like macho attitude, like that attracts them, that turns them on. There's other women that like a guy who's more like laid back, down to earth, doesn't have so much of a big ego. So I think that comes into play. But I think in the short term, like if that guy is going out to a bar to meet women, that kind of like outgoing, masculine, like macho personality, like that guy is probably going to approach more women that night and be a lot more confident and direct, maybe, cocky, whatever. But he's going to be able to get a lot more short-term relationships than I think a guy who's a little more humble, maybe wouldn't approach as many women in a bar or club scenario. Because if you're like a macho, like outgoing, aggressive guy, it actually works well for you in the bar scene. Like
why do you think that though? I mean, I agree, but why do you think that is?
I think in a bar or club, it's very loud. So I think a lot of guys from the get-go, they get nervous, and they'll be like, the music's so loud. They're thinking in their head, well, I'm afraid to approach her and get rejected. Even she might not be able to hear me. Whereas the guy who has like a big ego in his head, he's thinking like, all right, well, which one of these girls am I going to go home with tonight? And it leads him to maybe walk up to 5 girls and introduce himself and like show them like, hey, like I thought you were attractive. I wanted to come over and say hi. And the fact that he, maybe the first couple girls shot him down, but that 4th or 5th girl, liked that he was confident enough to like walk up to them, as long as he meets the looks threshold. But just having more of an aggressive type personality, it's going to lead him to, take more risks, and like, he's going to find a woman that night that's going to find him attractive enough.
So what I heard you say, like I guess if you could call it a virtue of being someone with a big ego in the bar scene, is that you're willing to take more risks.
Yeah, basically. It's a lot about risk taking, whereas a guy that's more a little more humble, down to earth, he might play it safe. He might get some, drink some beers with his buddies. He may strike up a conversation with one girl, maybe 2, but the guy who's more aggressive, he's going to take more risks, and he might walk up to 7 or 8 women, and one of those women is going to eventually find him attractive enough.
So, but if you could harness both, if you could like not be a tool, but at the same time you could also take risks and like just deal with the rejection if it comes your way, but then also maybe one time get lucky. Do you think that's a good combination, a good trait for a man to be like risk taking but also like humble at the same time?
A good guy at the same time. 100%. I mean, I think that would be better. Like if you're like a naturally a good guy, and you're also you can take the risk of walking up and introducing yourself to a girl you find attractive. I think that's ideal, and I think a lot of women will find that just as attractive, and more women will find it as more attractive because you're coming up, you're just like, you seem down to earth, you know how to conversate, you don't come off as like this douchey like macho guy.
Yeah.
So I think that is the best case scenario for you to do that.
Yeah.
So I don't know if you guys know this or not, but we're already at like an hour and 5 minutes.
Okay.
There we go.
So do we want to cap it at the last topic?
Yeah, let's spend about 5 minutes in the last topic. Do like some final.
All right, this has gone by pretty
reflection.
quick. Which
It really has.
Feels like it's been like a half hour.
I know
It really has.
I like the flow of
The
this
conversation's flowing.
Yeah.
There's no awkward moments.
I learned some
It's-
poker stuff, which is cool. So
I learned how much I don't know about poker.
Well,
Well,
we got to play. I'll teach you.
so I guess a really quick, rapid fire. So marry a best friend or best lover? I love this question. And I think there's a lot of different perspectives that can go into it. But I want to know what you guys think about that.
You want to take this one first?
yeah, I'll start out like kind of like set the stage for where I was trying to go with this question. So the question is, when you marry let's say I'm a guy, so I'm marrying a woman, and so you hear these sayings like you should be best friends with the woman you marry, and the question is like, do you want to marry your best friend or would you want to be marrying your best lover? Because to me, I think the idea of marrying your best friend is not realistic, and when you look at the way connections with men and women work, you'll see that women won't romantically engage with their male best friends because they feel comfortable around this guy. They almost see him as like a brother type of persona, and it's super weird for a woman to go from a best male friend to a lover like 99% of the time. There might be exceptions, but I think for me, ideally, I want to marry the best lover, not my best friend. So that, just my perspective, but what do you guys think?
Yeah, that's a good point you bring up, Rylan, because I think with women, like if you start off as a best friend with a woman, it's going to be hard for you to transition from that into
Agreed.
like a best lover, because a woman already has a lot of comfort with you. And when you have comfort with a woman for so long, it's a lot harder, in my experience, to segue that into attraction. Like a lot of the girls that I was like, quote unquote, like really good friends with growing up, I don't think I ever like segued that into
I never did.
like a long-term relationship with them, because they might even think you're like somewhat cute or whatever, but they still think of you as like the best friend from like down the street. Oh, he's the boy next door. You know what I mean? It's a lot harder to translate over.
For those of you that get out of the friend zone, we salute you.
I would almost love to hear the stories of like successful like conversions from friend zone to lover. I would find that fast. I don't know if we could ever like interview someone like that. I don't even know if they exist, but if they did, that'd be so interesting to hear like how they actually were able to like work the system and like have a mutual attraction and stuff. Because I don't know, Joe, what do you think about this topic?
I think that finding a best lover is probably the better option out there. I don't know. Like I've had quite a few female friends over my lifetime, and they just never really panned out to be, lovers, or obviously I haven't really gotten into a relationship with them. I feel like if you start new, it's a little bit easier to get. I mean, if you meet someone new, then it's almost like you're continuing to learn about them. Whereas if you're already best friends, then you already know a lot about that person. Maybe going on dates isn't as exciting as discovering something new. I mean, it's almost like you're going on a new safari ride with someone new.
Yeah,
personally.
That's a good point. The last
like
thing I'll
that.
say is like it's good to like have that physical sexual attraction with the girl, but also have some similarities. Like maybe you guys both like, playing music, or you both like hiking, or you both like spicy food, and you have those things in common, so you can bond about certain things. But you didn't start off as friends. You started off as like lovers.
And honestly, I think I speak for most men where and it doesn't happen very often, but I've had those nights where I've hung out with one particular girl, and you get this release of dopamine the whole time, because you're just learning and discovering everything about each other, and it's just a fun time all around.
Yeah, and I'll kind of end it for me here. It's like, it's an interesting thing you said, where if you're already friends, how you know things about them, you can't just change what they know about you, so now they see you as a lover. Like, they see you as a friend.
Yeah.
The detail, like, if it started out as a romance, then those details might be romantic, but since you're friends, they're just like, I don't know, funny, or they're just interesting tidbits about you. You can't then like change their perspective and be like, oh, now that's very attractive. Like, they already see it as like funny or whatever. It's not romantic.
Yeah, so it's like, as an example, like, you grew up with a girl down the street and she's seen you like vomit in the driveway, or she saw you shit your pants in the side yard, like something like that.
Pretty extreme.
It's hard to come back from. Those are extreme examples, but they happen. But it's a lot easier. I think the guys who do get out of the friend zone may have been less attractive at some point. Like, maybe growing up they
had
were
like a growth spurt or
they were
something.
chubby and they had a bad haircut, and then
Yeah.
they hit a big growth spurt and they became like much more attractive later. And then the girl who thought of them as a friend was like, whoa, who's that?
But I will say, if that does happen, which I'm sure it has, and it will continue, as the guy, you should reject the woman at that point. Because if she wasn't willing to accept you when you were pudgy and not attractive, and then you just were a late bloomer,
Sprouted up.
it's
yeah.
like, get the hell out of here, you know?
Get
It's
the
like,
fuck out of here.
You had your
accept me at my
chance.
worst?
Yeah.
You're not going to get me at my best.
Yeah, you don't. Yeah, it's funny how things turn around like that.
Definitely talk about that. I have
sure.
two good stories about that when I was overweight, and then later on, those girls I was never really friends with. They just weren't attracted to me when I was overweight and balding, and then they were definitely attracted to me later on. So,
Well, honestly, I think that's a really good note to end on, and I appreciate you guys coming out and shooting the podcast. Like I said, this is a new endeavor for us, and we're very happy with what we got going so far. Please like the channel, subscribe if you like it, share it on social media. That's probably some of the best ways to promote smaller channels like this. We're definitely trying our best here. We want to try and become the next big thing when it comes to podcasting.
And thank you, Tom Cruise, for all that you do for
Thank
us.
you, Tom Cruise.
thank you, Danny DeVito.
Thank you, Dave Grohl.
Woo!
I don't know.
Danny DeVito, you've done a lot for me.
Well, like I said, thank you guys very much for tuning in. This is Busy on Break. We'll see you next week for another new episode of Bob.
See you
This
later.
is Busy on Break. Have a good one, guys.